You have done this before. Raise your hand, this particular meeting. Okay, so I run this meeting every year at November, and what it is it's an opportunity to plan for what you want to achieve in the next 2-3 years. That failing to plan is planning to fail. So, having a plan is a good way of keeping yourself focused on the things you want to get done. And if you do a little bit every day, amazingly enough, you can achieve a lot. So I've done this. There's, if you look at the original email, the slides you can download, as well as a document. And I recommend that you download that now. That document is a planning document. So we're going to be going through and you're going to actually work on a plan today. So let me get started here. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about two things. One is like planning for your success. And then, speaking of planning, I was telling Kyle, my goal every November is to have the next year of OCSG planned out. And when I first started being on the board of OCSG, everything was month to month, and that kind of drove me crazy because some months we went dark because nobody planned anything. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to have this all planned so when I do this meeting, everybody can know what's going to happen that year. Now, sometimes there's a few things that change, but I'd say 95% of what we plan for is what happens. So I've done this presentation maybe 7-8 times, quite a few times. And I don't normally have this slide, but this slide says, warning, our world is about to change. So inside this presentation, I take you through strategies around lots of different things, financial, therapies, all sorts of different things. And it's built on a framework of government programs that we have all come to rely on. The Regional Center, Department of Rehab, Social Security, the Affordable Care Act, all these things are things that have helped us build a safety net. And there was an election a couple weeks ago, and there's going to be a different political party leading America, and they've made it clear that a lot of these things they don't think are right, and they want to change them. And we don't quite know how they're going to change. We don't know, there may be negotiations. There may be that the state takes on roles that the federal government's taking. All we know is that the intention is for this to change. And so it's going to be a tough year for all of us to kind of manage that change and understand that change and evolve with it. So I just think that you all should be mindful. I don't want to give an opinion of how I feel about this, but I just feel that you should all be mindful and know that there may be complexities that you hadn't planned for that may hit you. And so keep your paperwork together, be organized, and be prepared that one day some law may pass and you're going to have to change how you do health insurance. So that's all just something to think about. I just thought I would mention it as a starting point. So many of you have seen this slide before. This is my son, Josh. He's now 33. He was diagnosed just before he turned 4. He graduated from high school. He graduated from community college. He graduated from Cal State Fullerton. We bought a condo back in 2020, he moved in the condo back in 2020. We actually bought it after the 2008 downturn. There was a lot of short sales going on, and we were thinking, should we buy a bigger house? And I said, you know what? Someday Judi of the future came and talked to me and say, someday Josh is going to need to move out. Wouldn't it be great if you took advantage of this 75% off sale that was going on in Orange County real estate. So we bought back then. During COVID, he did something called AFA Hub. That was a Taylor Day program focused on film. This last year, I ran a conference called the Autism and Entertainment Conference, which was about helping adults on the spectrum who are interested in an entertainment-related field find employment, and that's still associated with Orange County Asperger's Support Group. It's a work group that we have running that is focused on that. Happy to talk about it anytime anyone wants to talk about it. Through that, Josh started a PIP where he's working on editing skills because he wants to be a film editor. A lot of things, in addition to all this stuff, a lot of things kind of came to fruition that I'd been planning for a long time. One is he finally got on Section 8 housing. This was a 12-year waiting list. It was another year of paperwork and going back and forth, but he finally got it. What that does is it pays for, basically for him, 70% of the rent gets paid for. So that's the rent, that's our condo. And the 30% he pays. We also went on self-determination with the regional center. And now we're dealing with some emotional things. And so there's always more to deal with life. And the point I make is it's a journey. This isn't a race. Some people graduate from college in 4 years, go on and get a job, are married by 28, have kids, and some people it takes a lot longer. So it's best not to compare yourself to others because you're on your own journey. Okay, so this is the first moment that I want to take a moment and have you think about either yourself, who you're here for today. If you're here for yourself, I want you to think about yourself. If you're here for a son or a daughter, think about them. And I want you to think about 3-4 years from now, not where we are today. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be working? Do you want to be living independently? Do you want to have a social life? Do you want to be in a relationship? I want you to take a few minutes and think about where you want to be going over the next 3-4 years. Next are key challenges. So you got this vision of where you want to go, but there are things holding you up from getting there. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's educational, maybe it's something else, something mental health related. Who knows? So take a few minutes and write down a list of what you see as your challenges. I should do this again, but I haven't, which was what were the top concerns. This was when I first joined, we first became president. I did a survey and these were the top concerns. So number 1 was jobs. Number 2 was relationships. 3, independence. And we've worked on a lot of these throughout the years. I think it was Susan who talked about executive functioning. We did an executive functioning workshop focused on academics a few years back, and that's like something that if we wanted to do it again, we worked with Karen Lerner who did that, and I also know that Evo Libre, who's a Department of Rehab vendor, offers a we had the president of Evo Libre come and speak to us, and she's written a book on executive functioning, and they offer a program that's paid for through DOR. So there's some options there. I just want to say that every month we have a virtual support meeting, and the best place for you to come and like, I know of all these things because of doing what I've been doing for a while. But the best place is to come to those meetings and talk, and then I'll say, oh yeah, let me give you their contact information and stuff. So that's the easiest way to access me. I do post. I try to have people come in, but and that's an alternative. So anyway, this is just kind of a little metric to see how you fare versus other people. This is a chart that I built. It looks like a horoscope chart, which for a parent trying to help our child, it's overwhelming and unending. You just think you got things all settled, and then something comes up and you go, oh my goodness, I now have another problem to deal with. And it can be challenging, it can be complex, it can cost money, it can take a lot of resources. So, this is kind of gives you a map of just the types of things that you might want to work on. In general, I tell you, don't work on more than 2 or 3 things in a year. When you try to do too many things at the same time, sometimes it's just you'll burn out. And so it's best for you to pick to do things. I think there's sometimes a better order to do things in, just because of how the government typically works. Like I would get SSI before I worked on getting a job. If someone's 18, because once you demonstrate that you could get a job, then you won't get SSI. So there's things like that. We're going to go through each of these, but like getting a diagnosis, whether you do it or not, you'll see that there's some government programs that having a diagnosis makes it easier to qualify for those programs. Healthcare, finding the right doctors, having insurance, these things come up. Different government programs, parenting. So important to have a good relationship with your child, and that the relationship changes over time. So you may need to go back and rework that relationship. That may be the most important thing you do this year, if that's a traumatic area for you. Therapies, and there's different therapies all the time. So you may think of Susan's need for executive functioning might be fit into that idea of therapy. Education, going to school and figuring out where you go, that could be a big challenge. Psychology or psychiatrist, whatever. Like for us, that's something that we're dealing with right now is looking at a psychiatrist. Social skills, relationships, life skills, career, financial, and the missing piece is housing. I haven't redone this slide, but we really need to have a separate spot for housing because that is a big deal. This chart is a little bit different in that I have this life care portfolio. So a few months back, I had Linda O'Neill speak to us all. She is with the Orange County Local Partnership Agreement. It's a group that I'm part of. There is a committee, a family committee, and they put together this life care portfolio. I'm going to just take a minute and show you. This is an earlier draft, but give you a sense of what this is. This is a document for putting all the information about your child. The idea is we're not here forever, and having all this information in one place that has emergency contact, it has who are all the key people, it goes into everything. And this group got together and they just said, what are your lists like? What are your lists like? And together they put this a document, and it's getting a lot of visibility across the state in terms of people seeing, yeah, this would be really helpful to have. We'll have this up on our website at some point. But also if you follow the regional center, they have speakers and they're doing a session on this month. I'm not quite sure the exact date. But anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of it. It's called the Life Care Portfolio. Okay, so everybody got something done this year, I hope. So I just wanted to see what people, and I told you a couple of things we accomplished. We got Section 8 housing and we got self-determination. And Josh worked, and I did the Autism and Entertainment Conference. And I worked on the Toastmasters project with Sasha and Yaz. So I got a lot done. But I know, Kyle, you changed jobs. So, what things did everybody, just as an opportunity just to brag a little, what things got done this year that you feel proud about? Okay, so now I'm going to kind of get into the body of our meeting, where we're going to go through those 12 or 13 different areas, and I'll share some things with you. We have every month, we have an educational session, and ever since COVID, we've been recording those. And so there's a wealth of information that's out there. So I'm going to be highlighting the recorded sessions and as well as what's planned for this year. So I was telling Kyle that in prepping for this meeting, I planned the entire OCSG year. And so we have things planned for this year. Sometimes there's a few changes, but it's pretty much baked to some degree. So I'll start off with diagnosis. So it's not everybody gets a formal diagnosis, but it's a good idea too, because there's a lot of government programs that having a formal diagnosis is critical to being successful in receiving services. And there's some deadlines that with SSDI, you need to have. They'll say that you don't necessarily have to have a diagnosis, that you have to demonstrate that you have this disability, but it's a lot easier to have a physical document from a neurologist or a psychologist indicating that a diagnosis. So for SSDI, it's 22. For regional center, it's 18. So if you haven't and you're thinking that those are benefits that you might need to have, it would be good to get a formal diagnosis. Here's a number of, these are links, these are places that you can go. We had Dr. Lindsay Sterling, who has a practice in Long Beach, who does do adult diagnosis. She spoke to us about it, and that session is recorded. Just so you know, I'll just show you this right now. So the mystery is, I'll go to the OCSG website. And if you go to the website and you go to resources and you click on educational video, this is a PDF of all the sessions that we've had since COVID. And there's the recording, and in many cases, a link to the PowerPoint. So I talked about Linda O'Neill talking about OCLPA, and you can watch the video or you can see her slides. While we're on this page, there's another set of resources. And that is this OC Jobs. And this is a listing of, I get emails of job opportunities, and we post those, and so you can access those to see. And a lot of times these are through workforce development, and so there's hiring events and things like that. So that if you're looking for a job, it's a good resource to go to. So anyway, back, so diagnosis. So anyway, and then Dr. Gammon, right now I have him talking about late diagnosis and kind of what to do next. I'm debating though. Anyone want to have an opinion? I'm dealing with a realization of when someone is on the spectrum, when do you look at it as being on the spectrum versus being a mental health issue? So that's something I'm thinking that might be an interesting topic as well. But right now he's talking about late diagnoses. So it'll probably be what he talks about. Anyone interested in the other topic? If you are, let me know, put it in the chat. Okay, when you get all your paperwork, you need to be the best secretary in the land. You need to keep all your records clear. And I'm not the best, you should see my office. I'm not the best organized person, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, I got notebooks that have all this stuff in there. If you have any question on this as we go through that, let me know. The next area is healthcare. A lot of times it's about insurance. Things you should know is that per the Affordable Care Act, in adult children beyond the age of 26 can stay on their parents' plans if they have a disability, autism being one of them. So this is a good way of keeping your child on insurance. If your child gets SSI, they'll get Medi-Cal. Little hint, in that Medi-Cal, the private insurance option is not necessarily the best. You can have your child get on Kaiser if you grandfather it in. What do I mean by grandfather it in? If you have that option at work and you do Kaiser, then you can have your child do Kaiser through SSI. Even if you don't have SSI, if you are in financial need, you can get Medi-Cal through the Orange County Social Services. It's always confusing because everybody's department has the same name, but this is social services versus Social Security. You know. So anyway, that's a way of getting Medi-Cal. They're the same group that will give you CalFresh, which is the food stamps type of thing. So it's an organization for helping people that are in financial need. If you get on SSDI, we'll talk more about the different Social Security options, or this is sometimes called the adult child benefit. After waiting 2 years, you get Medicare. So we've had a variety of people talk about insurance. Peter Freeberg and Neil Steinman talked about insurance, and Paula Pompa is with Easter Seals, and Easter Seals is who Kaiser outsources their autism support services through. So anyway, that's something to consider if insurance is on your list of something to worry about this year. Okay, government. There's probably a lot more programs that I'm talking about today, but we'll just go through these. So Regional Center, for the Regional Center is a agency, it's not really a government agency, but it's funded by the government. And there's 21 private nonprofit organizations under the Regional Center Network. Ours is in Orange County. And basically, they provide support for individuals with developmental disabilities. They're the secondary, they're not the primary. So they're like, if another group doesn't take care of you, then they come in. So what that means is usually their services are for before someone starts school and then after they finish. And so a lot of times we'll have people in our group who may not have regional center have done it early on, like Josh did it early, and then we kind of let it go. And we had to have them, I don't know what the word is, kind of reestablish him as a client. He was still a client, but we had to have them reestablish him as a client when he turned 18, because then there's a whole bunch of different services. We were talking about Susan and the paid internship program for her son. That's a regional center benefit. And so there's a lot of benefits that the regional center has for adults that you may want to take advantage of. If you're not a regional center client, you may need to show an IEP, you would need to show a diagnosis, and you would need to be aware that this is a need-based service. So it's going to matter whether you meet the needs, meet the level of need for becoming a client. And we had, I don't know if I have it here, but we did have actually the Dr. Peter Himberg, who is responsible for kind of admittance, come and talk to us. And I think his session is recorded, and it'll give you a much better feel for how they look at admitting people into the regional center. SSI is a means-tested way of having income come in. It also takes care of your medical insurance. And typically when you or your child turns to be an adult at age 18, that's when you'll want to apply for SSI. It takes about a year, and a lot of people get rejected. We've had Jim Hayek come and speak to us. You can see his recording right there. Jim he used to run a regional center up in the Sacramento area, and he's now a benefits advocate, and so he will work with you on applying for these benefits. And I worked with him. I met him through going to some session, and he helped us get SSI. So I recommend having some guidance. There's some attorneys that help with this as well. It's just very easy to get denied. And so it's something that if you're going to do, try and get some support. SSDI is a benefit based on having earned it in terms of having worked yourself or having a parent having worked. Typically, you'll see people do this when a parent starts collecting Social Security, then their adult child can collect 50% of their benefit. It's not taken away, but it's incremental. We do have, so there's a group called Department of Developmental Services, DDS. They actually provide the oversight to the regional centers. And they now have an autism organization, and Lauren Libero is responsible for that. And so they have there's so many people with autism that are regional center clients that they decided that they needed to set up an organization for looking at the lifelong journey of somebody with autism out of DDS. So I thought it would be very interesting for us to hear what they're doing to help our community. So she'll be speaking to us in March. Okay, so this is more about SSI. So I said it's means tested, and basically you have to not have any assets. So you have to have less than $2,000 if you're an individual and $3,000 if you're a couple. It doesn't count your house or your car or your furniture, etc. But if you have a savings bond, it does count it. So you may have to move money around in order to qualify. One of the ways you can do that is through an ABLE account, which is a special savings account for people with disabilities. And you can put in, I don't know what the number is now. I think it's up to $17,000 a year. This will bring you like $943 of income. There are a bunch of details like if you do get a job and you're on SSI, for every $2 you earn, you lose $1 of benefit. And then also you're supposed to report gifts and things like that, and they'll reduce your benefit for that month. And also, if you're living in your parents' home, you need to be paying them rent. Otherwise, it's counted as an in-kind gift. And again, you lose some of your benefit. And you should apply for this after your 18th birthday. Now, what happens is if you apply and it takes like a year to get approved, then you'll get a year's worth. They'll send you a big check and you'll have to spend it in a quick amount of time because it'll start earning from the date you apply. Okay, I mentioned about the childhood disability benefit. This is for those who, my son Josh is on it because my husband has started taking Social Security. And so he gets 50%. If the parent dies, then they get 75% of their parents' benefit. This doesn't come directly out of benefit. You don't lose anything. It's just an incremental. And there's weird little differences between these. So I mentioned how you lose income if you're on SSI. That's not what happens if you're on SSDI. You just max out at how much you can earn, and then there's this whole trial period, and it's very complicated. And as much as I have spent a lot of time on Social Security, I could not explain exactly how this works, nor am I convinced that it works the way they say it's supposed to work. But there are differences. I'm going to take you on a little bit. This is a little show and tell that I haven't shared. So the last 3 years, I've been part of the Orange County Local Partnership Agreement running. I've been part of it for about 8 years, but I was running a benefits committee. And we were dealing with this question that kept coming up over and over and over again. And that is people being fearful of working when they're on Social Security. And so as part of this, we conducted a survey of individuals with developmental disabilities to see if this was true. So we ended up getting responses from over 600 people, and that covered 43 of the 58 counties, really strongly Orange County based. So it's a very Southern California, I would say half of the responses were from Southern California. And they were from parents, and about 85%, 86% were from parents or representative payees, and 10% were from the individual. And then there were some other folks who responded. Over half were people on the autism spectrum. And of the group, 40% had some work experience, with 19% previously working and 21% currently working. And this is what we found. 67% said fear of losing their benefits was a key reason, was a key factor in whether they worked or not. And for 42%, it was a major factor. And there's a lot of training that they'll do for you, and there's benefits groups and all sorts of things and stuff that'll tell you that don't worry about it, just fill out this form or you can do this and not to worry. But the reality, and this was the really interesting wow moment, was 70, so I said 40% of the people had worked. If you just looked at the people who worked, 75% of them had a Social Security incident. They had issues. And of that 75%, over half are still dealing with it. So it's not like a late library book where you pay the fine and then you're done. It's like years of torture. I am starting on one of these journeys myself right now. So that's a project for me this next year. And these were the top issues. So 76% of these had received overpayment notices. Overpayment notices is occasionally the Social Security Department decides to look at your paperwork and decide, oh, you know what? We've been giving you this benefit for 10 years. We decided you didn't deserve it. Give us 8 years back of money. And send us a check for $20,000, please. At your convenience. Oh, by the way, we've decided to terminate your benefits. So even though you owe us $20,000, you have no way of making a living, and you have not, and you can't deduct it from anything. We've 40% of you, we've terminated your benefit. And by the way, even though you have disabilities, maybe you have cerebral palsy, you have health issues, 15% lost their medical insurance. And I love this last one. 11%, they were told they were no longer disabled. Now, it doesn't mean that you're no longer disabled. It means that we think you earned enough money that you shouldn't be disabled. So anyway, if you're interested in this saga, I have an infographic. We have a nice document that Linda and Scarlett put together about if you're dealing with this, who you can go to. We have a white paper on 64 different things that Social Security could do to fix this. And so this is a whole project here. So anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know and I can send you a link tree to this information. Okay, that probably cheered you up. There's Department of Rehab, which is around to help find independent living resource. It'll help you, might pays for school. If you are going to school, it can help pay for tuition. It can help you find employment. They now have some different programs that, you may think you know it all, but they're offering a program now that's kind of like a PIP, only it's for like 3 or 4 different occupational areas where they'll pay up to, I think, I forget the number, 999 hours. Workability is basically DOR in the school district. So there's workability programs in community colleges, in high school, that will help get some work experience in employment and preparation. Ticket to Work is a kind of a program to help you if you are interested in employment. I haven't yet to see the benefits of Ticket to Work, but I assume there are some. So that's kind of it for government programs. Any questions on any of this? Okay. All right, we'll continue. Parenting. You can get parent training through Regional Center. My recommendation for parents is not trying to do it all because it's exhausting. So tutors, social coordinators, different, if you can find different resources, that's helpful. I also say that teenage years can be very difficult, and you know, there's defiance, there's drugs, there's depressions, and the kids are getting bullied a lot. So really important. Participate in our group, and you'll get support from other parents. And if you're a regional center, you can get respite care. So parenting is really important. Okay. One of the things that OCSG does is we support the chancellor that every year puts on a teen theater summer program, and it's 5 or 6 weeks, and at the end they actually write and produce their own show. This is an excerpt from a show 4 or 5 years back, but I just think it's so perfect. I love to share it with you. So
I'm not gonna lie, getting your diagnosis can be difficult. I'm kind of lucky because I was diagnosed at a young age. OCD at age 1, autism at 2, and so on. ADHD, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder. It's a party!
Oh, aren't you lucky? I have no idea. Autism? Yeah. One of my biggest afflictions being a teenager.
But never fear. There will be an endless spray of specialists to help you. Psychologists,
Cognitive behavioral therapist,
psychiatrists,
occupational therapist,
physical therapists,
behavioral therapist,
speech therapists.
Let's not forget all disorders comorbid with autism.
ADD, ADHD, OCD, Tourette's.
Auditory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder. Sensory integration disorder.
Dermatillomania, trichotillomania,
Developmental coordination disorder.
learning disabilities,
Motor delays.
depression, anxiety. Meds can help.
And hurt.
They do their best to treat the symptoms that come along with living in a world where neurodivergence is mocked.
It's not like there's an autism pill. You try antipsychotics like Abilify and Risperdal. You want to go the FDA route. Boo!
So for now we get antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds like fluoxetine, fluvoxamine, sertraline, paroxetine.
Don't worry, parents. We have not forgotten about you. Throughout this journey, you can expect to feel
Frustration,
fear,
anger,
confusion,
that crushing feeling when you do anything in the world to help your child, but you simply do not know what to do.
You'll become an expert on things you previously had no interest in.
You'll get to be a doormat as your child will blame you for everything and take their frustration out on you.
You will have many useful discussions with teachers, doctors, and specialists as they tell you what you already know about your child and tell you to control the things you are already struggling with.
You'll become a pharmacist, a drugstore always open for business.
Say goodbye to sleep. Say goodbye to your social life.
As you begin this exciting chapter, remember that life is a journey, ups and downs, just like everyone around you. You're here, and that is the first step.
I love that because I love their they wrote this themselves, and this frustration of all these different therapies that we all try to help each other, help improve our situation. So these are just a few of them. And we've had people come and talk about different ones. So ABA is a common one, and it's one that's typically covered by insurance. Peers is a UCLA social skills program. There's now Peers for Careers and Peers for Dating. We talked about executive skills training that we've offered a couple of times. And if there's a big demand, maybe we can do it again. Cognitive behavior therapy, nutrition, vision therapy. Some people have tried hypnosis. We've had hypnotists come and speak to us before. So, whatever your challenges are that you're trying to deal with, there might be some good therapies out there to help. Michael Urim talked about getting unstuck, and we have that recorded, and Alex talked about positive psychology. Education, so there's a lot of decisions. I don't know where each of you are in the decision making about private, public, whatever in terms of school. And then, as I mentioned before, DOR can be help with funding. There's some on-campus options that you may or may not be aware of, such as the College Living Experience, which is located in Orange, or there's some options at Cal State Long Beach. This was data from that same survey, and it just shows you how many graduated, with postdoctorate degrees, graduated from college. This was, like I said, this was a long time ago, 2018, and a lot of our members have graduated from college since then. Psychology, so the medications and psychologists. Just so you know, I don't have it up here, but many years back, we did a series with Alice called Conquering Your Emotions, and it deals with anger, depression, and anxiety, 3 different sessions, and we're going to be redoing that this coming year. Social skills, we had Jeremy and talk about his program, My Best Social Life, and also Dr. Lindsay Sterling, who had mentioned did the diagnosis, has written a book on social skills, and she came and spoke to us about that right after her book was published. And so there's, it may be that's what you're working on this year. And I mentioned peers before as an option. Last year, we got a grant from the city of Irvine to do the what we were calling the Friends and Fun program. This includes a social skills discussion. It's been with Dr. Ali Arena, monthly social activities, and kind of encouraging our members to make friends. For OCASG members, it's $80 a quarter. For people that live in Irvine, it's free and paid for by this grant. Next year, there's going to be a change. So Dr. Ali Arena she's pregnant. She's due in February, and she moved to Huntsville, Alabama. So she's got a lot of change in her life. So she will no longer be our discussion leader, but we now have Lisa Jakowski, who's a professor of psychology, has taught lots of social skills class, has a podcast, and she will be leading our discussions starting in January, and the time will be moved to Sundays from 10 to 11:30. And then also Erin is still going to do social activities, but she's trying to cut down because she's gotten a promotion at work and she can't work as much. So we've hired a new social coordinator who will be starting in January as well. For those who've done the Chance Theater, she worked on the last 3 years assisting with the Chance Theater program, and she has she's an ABA therapist, and she also has a background in theater and autism, and a scavenger hunt at a park. So that's what's planned for next year. This is more on that. So relationships are really important, whether they're, we talked about family, but also other services provider, and of course, friends. We've had lots of people come and talk to us about friendships. Chelsea talked about a family. She's a psychologist at UCI. And we have, Kayla Parkinson has written a book with Susan Marino and Marcy, and they talked about their book, and Kayla runs a monthly discussion group as part of OCSG for people that are in relationships with someone on the spectrum. This year we're going to have Dr. Blake Warner, who's with UCLA Peers program, Peers for Dating, Jeremy Hamburg, who runs My Best Social Life, and Chris Asade, who is with the Ed Asner Family Center and has been offering a dating program with them. Come and discuss dating programs, and that'll be in May. Gavel Club, it says 10 years, it's 12 years now, has been something that what caused me to originally join OCSG was I was interested in doing Toastmasters with autism. We had Dr. Sasha Zidek from Cal State Fullerton come with Yasmin Valerian to discuss the research that they're doing on Toastmasters and autism. They gave the first presentation. They'll be giving a second one in September. But we meet once a month, and from 9:30 to 11, it's a great way for making friends, for improving your communication skills, for getting confidence. And they even saw mental health and executive functioning benefits as well. I guess I'll share this. No, I'm not sharing the video. Okay. Life skills. So, whether it's some type of independent skills, people are working on driving, they're working on a lot of different things. Tom Island is a distinguished Toastmaster, and he gave a talk last year as part of our author series about developing independence. He'll be back. We're going to have a session with some coaches. A lot of times people ask about a life coach. And so we're going to have 3 life coaches, Tom, Mo Bailey, and Luke LaForce or Lorfis, come and speak about life coaches and how they can help. Oh, boy, my slides are out of date. Hold on. Share. This is now 1 in 36. And what I've heard is that in California, it's 1 in 22 children have autism. Okay, but unemployment and underemployment, 85% are unemployed or underemployed. And this was a survey from our survey data from a while ago, but of our group, a third, 20% at that time were happily employed, and a third had work but weren't working now. And 18% were working but weren't happy with what they were doing. So career is usually a big issue. And we've had lots of people come and speak about different things we've done. Every year we've done a neurodiversity at work. We've had DOR and a lot of different people come and speak to us. We talked a little bit about the paid internship, but it's a great benefit for regional center clients. And basically it allows the regional center to employ you and you can go work for someone, but they don't even have to put you on their payroll. They'll also provide job coaching, but there's a lot of different options for figuring out how to get work experience. This is a bit about the Thompson Paulson Group and the Orange County Local Partnership Agreement. This is a few years back, but the number of companies that had neurodiversity or autism at work programs. And there's a playbook for how to start a program at your company. Financial, we had I don't have it on here, but we had a class called Understanding Money with Bruce Miller just last month that a number of people from OCSG attended, and he helped provide a framework for money and investing and all sorts of things. So that was useful. I got an email from him today that he'd like to do it again. So maybe we will. So employment's a good source. We talked about Social Security. Life insurance is a good way for parents to put in place something that will be there for their child when they're gone. The ABLE account I talked about, and then also special needs trusts. We're going to have Stuart Zimmering, who's a special needs trust attorney, come and speak to us in August about special needs trust and conservatorship. We've had Susan speak about that before. Courtney Heekop spoke about has a recorded webinar on financial planning. And then we'll have a session on fiduciaries with Janie Moran and Leanne Hitchman. The ABLE account is a special account. I should check on this number. I think it's old in terms of the maximum. It's a way to increase how much money you can have from the Social Security limit of $2,000. So you can set up an ABLE account and have, $100,000 of savings that's outside this, that's not counted against you from Social Security. It's also gives you, when you're on SSI, it's like you can only spend a certain amount of money on certain things, and you can, so it gives you a way of spending money on some things that may, like an example was on rent. Josh was in the dorms, and it was through the ABLE account that he was able to pay for the dorm fee. Okay, special needs trust. This is really important for you from a life planning point of view to have in place for your child so that they don't lose their benefits, but there's a way of making sure that there's funds available for them after you're gone. Okay, finding a home. So Jack Stanton came and spoke to us a couple times about finding a home. These are both really good sessions. This is one that had a couple of, I think the Irvine Trust, these were just programs that have some housing options available. And there's a deal with the regional center that these different types of housings will have low cost options that will be for regional center clients. So it's important that you work with the regional center if you're trying to find cost-effective housing, because they will help you. They also can help. This session with Jack was amazing. There were so many housing options that the regional center can help you with that I had no idea existed. So, so I recommend looking into that and seeing if the regional center can help with housing options. These are some of those. So there's like this license option, community care facilities. There's intermediate care facilities, family homes. So these are the different options. So I recommend watching Jack's session on that. So that's kind of me going over what I can talk to you about in this session. But like I said, come to the support group meetings if you're an adult. And I do come and just announce events. But if you want to talk to me about something, just let me know. So what next I'd like you to do is I want you to figure out what your priorities are for next year. So what are the top, 1 to 5 things that you want to work on next year? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about what's important to you for next year. Next steps. So I've talked about a lot of things, and the way you could put together a whole big plan, but really, this is about learning what's available, and it may be making a phone call, it may be showing up to a meeting, it may be checking out a website, it may be watching a webinar. Your next step on any of the things that you're going to work on is just going to start off with one thing, and then you'll go to that, and then you'll learn something else, and before you know it, you'll be, much more knowledgeable about your options and what you need to do to achieve this goal. So I wanted you to, for the 5 things that or 3 things, whichever that you listed as your top priority, figure out what the next step is. What is one thing that you could do to get you started on this journey? The last thing, so we're done with that part of the meeting. The last thing I have is a slideshow that shares what we have planned for this next year. So I will share that. It's a 5-minute slideshow and shows what is happening. Any other thing I can do for you while you're here? Hope you got something out of today's session and that you're successful this next year. And just know, come to our meetings, and that's where you learn and from other people who are on a similar journey. Okay. Have a good evening. Bye.